All right. Welcome to the New England Endurance Podcast, where we celebrate the vibrant endurance community of New England. I'm your host, Art Trapotsis, along with my esteemed colleague, Eric Schenker.
Episode 2, we did it.
That's right, baby.
And they all said we would fail. But
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't. I got to say that the response was pretty awesome to our first little foray into this. I think we struck a chord, certainly with folks from New England, but I got even some comments from people out in Seattle.
The endurance community is huge, and folks want to hear about what's up in this space. And I know from my circle of folks that they were very excited about, who we're going to be talking to next.
Yeah.
And right now, I'm looking at a dude sitting across from me who I have a ton of respect for. I've known you for a bunch of years. He's a living legend as far as I'm concerned in the local cycling community. His name's Dean Phillips.
Yep. Dean. So interesting, Dean, whether you realize it or not, a lot of folks responded on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and or reached out directly for guests that they would like us to have. You were the only one where there was more than one vote. So a couple people from different parts of our lives, but all responded and said, you got to have Dean. And I think it could be, we're going to go over a little bit of your bio, but you are in a high demand, and we're pretty honored to have you here as our first guest.
He's got an athletic resume a mile long. You want to go through a couple of these things?
I'll go through it, and he's going to blush. This is not, this, as Dean told me, this was the resume that his wife sent us. So he, I think it's hard for any of us to sort of write these things, but I'll just list off a few things. But I think what's important to state, which is fact and it's scientific, that all great endurance athletes were at one time rowers. Can the three of us agree in this room that is the case?
Absolutely.
I can agree.
Okay, yes. Bit controversial, but like all great endurance athletes, I don't know that his was original, but he was a collegiate rower, turned to cycling.
Hang on. Before you go, about the cycling piece, he just told us he was a world champion.
Yeah, I was gonna lead
under
into that.
23 world champion in the 8.
I was gonna lead into that. So, as a road cyclist, 7-time Masters national champion and 3-time world champion, that was in the past decade at the time trial pursuit and team pursuit events. He is the record holder in the Charlie Baker time trial in Concord, Massachusetts, which is for many of us locally a really big deal. Yes. His wife left this off, but we knew it. He's an under 23 world champion in the men's 8, which is totally mind-blowing. Married, wife Carolyn, 4 kids, Ellie, Amelia, Will, and Drew. And he is the owner and lead fitter at Fit Werx, that's FITWERX in Peabody, Massachusetts, for the past 17 years. So it's a pretty awesome, we're going to dig into rowing, we're going to dig into cycling, we're going to dig into bike fitting. And Dean, thanks for being here, and thanks for being our first guest ever.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be the first guest.
Yeah.
Super pumped.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Dean, what are you most proud of on that list of accolades we just read off?
It's interesting. You mentioned
your wife and kids.
Yes,
just
my family. Yes, exactly. Super supportive wife and family who probably be listening to this someday. Hopefully, we expect that. But yeah, it's interesting. I just turned 49 to think of the U23 boat so long ago. That was exciting. I had an awesome time rowing at Navy. You mentioned rowing. I didn't even consider rowing. Rowing kind of found us. That's the way it was for a lot of guys back then. You see, my coach just recruited all the tall guys you saw walking around the Naval Academy, and I loved it. Some of my best friends to this day were rowers back then, and I immediately enjoyed the sport. I was good at it. Like they put us all in ergometers within the first week, and I didn't do so bad on that. And
you enjoyed the suffering.
Yeah, it's like you enjoyed it when it was over, but then I did well. So. Just awesome time at Navy. We did great back then. It was one point even the nationally #1 ranked crew. We won the Tenike Trophy, which was awarded to the team national champions in the IRA National Championship. even to this day, Navy, that was the last time Navy's won. So this was like a time when we had a couple good classes together. And anyway, you know, a couple of us went into that Mike Tady's camp in Princeton, and we made the U-23 boat. We went over and won in
What
Belgium.
year was that?
This was 1996. So right before we went, he was actually coaching. He became this legendary head coach of U.S. rowing for decades after that. So this was when he was still Princeton's freshman coach. He coached us. We went and won, came from behind, literally the last 20 strokes over Russia and Germany. Just amazing race. I had guys in that boat that made senior national teams and Olympic teams for years after that. So I was fortunate to be in such a fast boat. And so I hurt my back shortly after that when I was ruptured discs and kind of ended my rowing. I was able to row when I was a senior, and that
You're
was
the
it for
first
that.
rower to
ever do that.
Ever have back problems. So.
So to this day, you know, I wish we could have done sculling or something symmetrical, you know, not sweeper arm for those listeners when you have one oar on one side of your body. So it just looks like, why would anyone do that, you know, for 4 years in a row?
Have you seen Boys in the Boat yet?
I've read the book. I haven't seen the movie. It just came on. I will see it. Yeah. There's no shortage of, it's one of those, as an ex-rower, you probably had every person I knew was telling me to read the book, and all right, fine, I'll read it. I liked it. I really enjoyed
the book, and I thought the movie was pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. My dad read it in his book club, you know, and then he's like, you got to read this book. And I was almost hesitant, like, because I feel as though it's hard to capture that feeling, but that book was awesome. And I think we can, and we'll definitely have some episodes in the future where we talk a little bit more about rowing and how people can get into rowing and learn how to row. Cause I know the three of us all believe in it highly, but did you make the transition like a lot of other rowers rowing to cycling? Was that your progression? I mean, again, I can only speak for myself. That's what happened to me. I think, Art, that's what happened to you.
Exactly, yep.
And it was another rower that I had rowed with or actually coached me who got me into road cycling or cycling in general. So how did you find yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. It was actually because of my back injury. I had to stop rowing, you know, throughout a couple of years of trying to fix my back, started swimming and cycling a lot. And they're just natural. And everything seems easier than rowing. I don't know if I was just a wimp when I was 21, 22 years old, but just horrible ergometer tests. And it's everything, cycling was enjoyable, swimming. Eventually, once I could run again, I got into triathlons. And that went great. I did those for 10 years and really enjoyed it. Just now I have these 3 new sports that I hadn't done much before. You know, I'd swam growing up and excellent social environment, and suddenly you have these things you can focus on and enjoy all the training, and so that's where the cycling started for me. Eventually, I got to an age where it wasn't like an abrupt stop, but I too many running injuries. My back caught up to me. This was, say, 2010, the last time I ran, and so I kind of ended the triathlon career, and then the cycling started. It's really all I could do left, and I do see I always enjoyed cycling. Is more than I didn't really even enjoy swimming that much, and running I did enjoy it, but I just couldn't do it anymore. And cycling ever since, and trying a little bit of everything from the hill climbs, a bunch of bike racing, and then I gravitated towards the time trials, and anything with sustained efforts, no hills, no corners is what I was better at.
Pure power,
and it's pain cave, right? I mean, it's an ergometer test, right? At the end of the day,
scenery.
It's just pure pain and suffering, and you knew it well, and you knew how to apply it to cycling.
Yes, and it's interesting. So we use the ergometers, the power meters, as rowers, and I feel I claim to be one of the first power meter users in New England, just because I had one in 1999, and I remember when I saw it, it's like, oh, everybody must have one of these. It's perfect. Now I don't have to worry about hills or downhills and wind. I'll just train by power.
Was it a power tap?
Power tap hub. Yep, with a wire coming down the bike. And even the bike shop I went to order, and they're like, what? I'm literally helping the owner look it up in a catalog. That's what I want. And
well, speaking of bike shop, how did FitWerx come to be?
Yeah, as I got, Marty and I opened it in 2006. Like I got a bike fitting 5-6 years before that from John Cobb. This is when the Navy actually had, because I was injured, I was stationed in Tennessee. I did actually about my last 4 years there. and they have what's called medical. I was on different duty. I wasn't unrestricted line anymore. So I went and got my bike fitting from John Cobb, and I thought it was an amazing process. And this was so cool. I brought friends to go see him. Then I started doing fittings that anybody that would let me do it to them. And this is where, for those asking what bike fittings are, it's when I'll position riders for comfort and power and weight distribution, aerodynamics if it's a triathlete, and just to make sure you're going to enjoy cycling more, you're going to go faster, you're going to last for longer rides. And I forget what the original question was, but
how FitWerx came to be.
Yeah, so FitWerx, and then FitWerx was founded by Ian Buchanan, my business partner in Vermont. Had started a fit-focused bike shop in 2001, and Marty, my current business partner, got the conversation started with him. Hey, I know a guy that's doing bike fittings and would love to do something like this. And I was a mechanical engineer until then, and so left the real world with Marty in 2006, and we started FitWerx here in Peabody. 17 years later, here we are. And I still enjoy it. I do the bike. I'm the only one that does the bike fittings there now. And you dabble in other areas over the years, a little bit of this and that, coaching or these things. And now I just enjoy doing bike fittings with folks. And
is there something unique about your fitting process versus other bike shops?
You see a number of different technologies come and go with the fittings. Ours has been, maybe it looks complicated on the outside. It's just always straightforward, just, one-on-one, one rider at a time, position, not even worry about the bikes yet, position you in a dynamic size cycle where we optimize your seat height, your hand position for comfort, power, efficiency, weight distribution. And then we look at which bikes can be built to match your position. So we're not even, someone comes in wanting to buy a bike, we won't even let them, honestly. Maybe that costs us some sales, but when they see the fitting process, they understand it. And then once we get their position set without even looking at the bikes, we decide which ones are best suited for your position, then take you through the different options. So that's always what's made us a little different, the fit first. So a lot of bike shops got into fittings the last few years. Maybe it was COVID. There's fewer of them doing it, so we do stay pretty busy with it all. But yeah,
nice. I'm more inclined to pick the bike first than the fit because I like
it's the way it's done a lot of the time.
It needs to look a certain way.
Yeah, it gets plenty of folks like that. No, I need the front end to be higher, but I can't have spacers. It's got to look good. And so, but once they see it, once they feel the change, that's often enough to change that.
What would be, for those riders out there right now that are listening and they might be, dealing with some injuries, what are some common ailments or aches and pains that somebody might feel riding where a bike fitting could potentially help them?
Yeah, we usually see a lot of folks are looking for us because they're uncomfortable. And it's my lower back hurts, my hand hurts, my saddle hurts. You get a lot of those. Issues with my knees or my feet. I don't feel like I'm producing power. So a little bit of everything. And that's how, as much as we prefer to see every cyclist as soon as they get in the sport, the reality is a lot of them, we see those that are looking for a bike fitting because they're not comfortable. And and we do see plenty of brand new. I feel the best way, if you're going to get into the sport, you're going to enjoy it more and last much longer if you're positioned properly. But I completely understand. A lot of folks just get a bike, see if they like it, and then the bike fitting happens down the road. So we'll see about half and half. People just getting into it that want to know which bike to get, and then versus plenty that have had, done it for many, many years or decades, and they just want to be more comfortable. Even guys that are quite comfortable, they just really want to have a look at everything just to make sure that there's nothing that could be getting done better. And we cover everything too. If it's as much as our website or, it'll look like we fit just pro riders or, high tech stuff here. And it's vast majority is just casual cyclists, charity riders, club riders, weekend riders, that kind of thing.
I might need to come visit you to gain a few more watts.
I was going to say, you might need to come and gain a few more watts or keep the same watts, but find other little ways of getting faster, pacing better, or, different positions. So,
yeah. Again, just somebody who has had many bike fittings over the years, it makes a huge difference. So I will say this, whether it's at FitWerx or if you're listening in Maine or Rhode Island or Vermont or what have you, it's worth it. It's a worth it from not just getting faster, but I'm I'm much more about being comfortable right now riding. I like to ride for a long time. It's very social, but I want to be comfortable. And I do think that that's one of the things that the fitting, at least for I just want to make sure that people don't think it's just for racers.
No, not at all. In fact, it's some of the it's all about being comfortable. It makes you ride longer. If you're comfortable, you're gonna be powerful, and there's no reason anybody, even plenty of bike races around here, you shouldn't be in positions that aren't comfortable, that you can't ride literally all day if you need to. When it comes time, if it's a fast group ride or a race or a criterium or anything, it's because everybody gets in these group rides and the pace will pick up. You can always do little things on the bike to make yourself faster, but you shouldn't sacrifice other parts of the position to do that. So comfort is everything, whether you're a triathlete or a bike racer or more like most of our customers, casual or recreational riders, charity riders. It's really all about comfort.
Is there any exciting new tech in the world of fitting that you're using or coming down the pipeline?
Or maybe even just on bikes that you're seeing, integrated cabling and things like that. But what do you see in the future?
Yeah, like the present, why people are getting new bikes right now, the disc brakes are here, for much better stopping power than we used to have. The clearance for larger tires is another big one. We've always known that larger tires can be just as fast, but they're far more comfortable and they corner better, but they never fit in our older bikes. So now the manufacturers are making the wheels wider, making the clearance on the bikes wider, so the manufacturers are actually making larger versions of the faster tires. So that's great. The electronic shifting's here as well. So now instead of those cable shifts, now we're just touching a button and there's a little motor and the derail is quickly changed. Electronic shifting is really nice. The prices have come down, so it's becoming the main. It's likely going to become all the component groups pretty soon. And there's other, what's the latest and greatest there's all kinds of new high tech stuff with heat training. Training more in the heat can be just as valuable as altitude training. Like what else? They're doing things, that company Morton's is doing sodium bicarbonate, buffering lactate, and I'm probably getting over my head with some of those. And also long distance, the ways of blending carbohydrates so you can actually ingest more per hour. For folks doing the marathon or Ironmans, you're suddenly seeing time start dropping because of things like that. So I feel we're in an area of some of the biggest performance gains I've seen for long-distance runners, triathletes, cyclists, for things that we always had at our fingertips but never quite knew how to use well. Yeah. So there's a lot of cutting-edge stuff going on there.
Any exciting wearables you're seeing coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, you see, inline lactate reading. Lactate is just I'm not even going to try to define it. It's, the burn we feel in our muscles, lactic acid. Lactate's an energy source. And so basically, as we go harder, it's funny, I think about rowing because we got tested for it way back then. The higher your lactic level, the more anaerobic energy you're using. Anyway, it's what burns. Yep. And so if you keep it under control at certain levels, that's what leads to better performance and better training. And so a lot of these distance runners and triathletes are using them now. So these little inline or ways of measuring lactate. And, now we have power meters telling us exactly what power we're riding at. We have heart rate monitors telling us how our body's responding to everything, but now we have the actual lactate numbers so they can really fine-tune which zones they're actually in, because that's going to change based on how long you're riding in that zone and how hot it is, that kind of thing.
A few weeks ago, I went to the Endurance Exchange Conference in North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
Put on by USAT, and they had a couple of interesting devices there that measured the temperature and flow rate coming out of your nose to correlate it to what zone you were in, what ventilatory threshold, and there was another device that measured the oxygen in your muscles. And I won't mention their names here on the podcast, but there's just a lot of cool stuff coming down.
Yeah, really.
I think we're getting overly nerdy in this conversation. I'm gonna interject and say this sounds like another conversation that we should have, but it's cool stuff for sure. I mean, we're all wearing wearables here in this room and things like that. So it's, but we're getting into all right. As I would say, we're getting over our skis a little bit on some of this stuff.
So Dean, you're a family man, a businessman, an athlete. I think folks want to know how you balance it all and find a way to maintain a high level of fitness, it appears at all times.
It's, super supportive wife and family. It's funny, some of my kids are, in their 20s now, or one of them, and it's what they've always known. I just, it's part of my routine. I do it each day, each morning. It's what makes me feel normal, feel good. It's very supportive family in the background. Literally, the only reason, and truly enjoying it. At some point in your life, I feel things are about, I know I can do this or accomplish this or maybe win this event or race at this level. And on the other hand, you start doing things more for enjoying the journey. And you always need a little bit of both, something to drive you, whether it's just one event. I'm just going to train for this long event, like a Beta VT or some, long group ride, and then just enjoying all the training leading up to it. A lot of folks feel the same thing where, as long as I have something on the calendar, it drives me to get on my bike and ride. And we're all the same way. Yeah, you get to do some kind of a plan to follow, but you actually enjoy the riding in the big picture. You feel good after it. So, a lot of testing different boundaries with a lot of different things over the years. You go through a phase, you race too much and then you burned out, and even tried to take a year off at some point. Didn't like that at all. And it's become part of me, part of your identity, your social group, your friends. And, that's the fun time when you're out there riding with your friends. It may not be, we're all doing virtual indoors on Zwift or these apps. So you really look forward to those group rides when you do get outside and you do, nice weather and see everybody.
Well, beneath your soft-spoken nature, there's a watt monster lurking. What's one of your favorite workouts?
I do. It's a lot of they'd call it tempo, sweet spot workout, sub-threshold. I enjoy not killing myself, but just riding nice and steady, 90% of threshold.
Like a 2x20 sort of thing?
Yeah, that style. Even a little easier. Some part, it's interesting, some of the, the new science about where you actually should be training. I think a lot of us might be going too hard for our intervals and going just a little bit back off that 2x20, maybe 5% less, that LT2 they call it. And, just because you can ride it longer, you can do it more often. It's far more enjoyable to back off just a little bit and ride longer. So I'm on Zwift a lot. And, it's interesting how few actual interval workouts I do. Might be just one a week. And the rest is just riding and having loose targets you're looking for or time frames you're doing it. Looking forward to some of the group rides like we've done in Concord here in the summer, and it's just finding ways to keep it as enjoyable as it can be, but also in the big picture, making sure you're getting the right amount of work done when you want to.
Are you balancing road, mountain? Like, do you have a certain time of, winter time, a lot of people migrate over to mountain a little bit more versus road just based on the weather and the salt and the trails? How do you mix up your pie chart of cycling?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's because winter right now, I'll just 4 or 5 days, weekdays are on the road bike, usually on Zwift, which is you're on the indoor trainer, or in my case, is rollers. And then I'd like to mountain bike on the weekend. That weekend tends to, no matter what time of year, be a slightly longer ride, whether it's 2 hours or 3 hours. And I enjoy meeting some of my mountain bike friends, and we live in an amazing area for mountain biking in Willowdale, Bradley Palm, all right near me. I'm not very good at all on the mountain bike. I enjoy it though. It's like the opposite of road cycling and indoor cycling. You get away from the power meter. You get away from the, worrying about anything, and you're just following your friend. Going through the woods. It's awesome.
I heard a rumor you may have taken a little tumble on the mountain bike.
Oh, you heard
recently?
that?
Yeah, word spreads pretty fast, Dean, when you do something silly on the bike. So
yeah, that was just one of those. I still don't. We were just talking about it. I don't even know how I felt. I sprained my thumb pretty badly. Even shaking your hand coming in here. I've been joking.
A pretty firm grip though. Dean.
I've been trying.
I'm a pretty strong guy, so.
But it still hurts a little 6 weeks later. So yeah, I took a little spill, but I got off easy. So it was, but I missed it. Just those almost a whole month not being able to mountain bike. But now it's good. I was out there again on Sunday with one of my friends, and yeah, just a lot of fun.
So even Dean Phillips takes a tumble sometimes.
That's right.
I think
more than anyone I ride with, I would wager.
Okay.
So Dean, some of us watch you on Strava from afar, and we see some of your incredible rides. Is there one KOM segment you're looking to get on the Strava?
it's probably more than one. You know, they're so motivating. You know, like the time trial one was important. They drive you so much.
The Charlie Baker time trial?
Yeah, something like that, where
What'd you average
you
there?
literally end up.
Did you go 31 plus?
Yeah, the last one. Like, it's crazy. You're racing yourself to some degree, because there's this guy with my same name 10 years ago that did this certain time. And so all these years, you're like trying to match what you did 10 years earlier. But you know what the fun thing is all over the North Shore, when we get together, we do the Sunday morning group rides and a bunch of other fast guys. And we know where the segments are. Everybody pretends they don't really care where the segments are. We all know where they are. Yeah. And when the wind's in a certain direction that day and everybody's feeling good, or certain guys in the ride, you can feel the pace pick up and you know you're on the clock. And for those that aren't familiar with, I think everybody's familiar with Strava at this point. You just take your GPS computer and these little make-believe segments that have leaderboards, and you're basically virtually racing against each other. But
that's awesome.
It can be healthy and it can be an obsession, right? Yeah, so indeed. we can look at it both ways. So you kind of mentioned the group rides. Are there any specific events? What are your favorite events? You know, sort of like, got to put money down, got to register, got to get a number. Do you have any favorites here in New England?
Yeah, you know, there's so many good ones. I personally only, these days, don't get out to as many. Beta VT, I mentioned earlier. I try to do that one I have done it almost like 10 years in a row, I think. That's that 140 miles from Hanscom Air Force Base up to one of the ski mountains in Vermont, Okemo. And it's just a lot of fun, because there's maybe 600 of us, and you start off in different groups based on speed. And at this point, I know half the other guys, you know, because the same folks show up every year. And it's just a lot of fun. You work together for maybe 100 miles, and then as guys get tired, then you kind of split up, and that's the long ride. There's fun bike races and other stuff. I've been focused on time trials again, so I'm trying to steer my way that way. You know, I'll go to a qualifying race. I hope to go to the Masters Time Trial Worlds this year, so that'll be like my August event. And then just trying to get all the fun group rides in between with the training.
You and I met many years ago. I don't know if you remember this, on the North Shore, the Tour de Cure.
Yes, I remember.
And it was a fun event.
Keep it tight.
Yeah, it was a fun event because they sprinkled these segments throughout the
I remember that.
the course, which is kind of rare for a charity event.
Yeah, that might have even been before Strava. Was it? Or we used Strava to time them.
Yeah, it might have been.
I bet. Yeah.
2012 or something.
Yeah, we tried to. We were. It kept it fun, but that was when Grand Fanos were starting, and hey, as long as we have a timed event, that'll get everybody going, and then yeah.
I remember your FitWerx crew. I think it was didn't stop at any of the rest stops.
Yeah,
because you were training.
That's right. It was a couple. Marty and his brother Vin were doing it. They were both likely doing an Ironman of some kind, and we probably had 4 or 5 water bottles on us, and we're just going to keep going. And yeah, that's the secret to being the first finishers at the end of that day
of the charity ride.
Of the charity ride of the North Shore Tour de Cure. We're the first ones here. Yeah, no one's here to see it, but we're the first ones here.
What do you do to cross train?
A little bit of lifting. Can't do much else. Just try to keep the lifting, keep the body strong, and a little bit of rowing. I hadn't rowed in 25 years because of that back injury, and somebody dragged me into a boat. These alumni boat, or it was a master's boat for the head of the Charles, and I was really nervous. That was a scary experience. I had literally 2 of the guys that were in my boat right behind me, and we were horrible. They just needed live bodies to go in and do it. I know you guys know.
Oh, no. Well, we're getting together an alumni boat for the Tufts 1996 crew.
Well, I can tell you, I do the announcing for the head of the Charles. Been doing it for like 20 years. And we're over by the Weld Boathouse, right on that stretch. And by the time the alumni boats get to us, it's a train wreck. Yeah. Right? You all have an incredible first 500, maybe 1,000 meters. By the time you get to us, it is horrible. It looks horrible. I don't care if you are world champions or not. It's something that all alumni should really think twice about before jumping in that boat. I told
our crew they all have to submit a 2K erg time of under 8 minutes.
I'm telling you, go for the 4. don't do the 8, because inevitably there's going to be 6 guys or girls that are going to be in good shape.
What if we row the 8 but row by 6s?
And 2, right?
That would work for me.
And just as we know, you need one bad apple in that boat to throw it off. So I strongly suggest the alumni 4s. I think you can get a good group there going.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, because the original, this was 2 years ago I did, and it was a lot of fun. I think we were last in like the 40 plus or whichever it was. But my coach, that Dan Lyons, who actually originally recruited me to come try rowing when I was 18, he was a Naval Academy grad. He's got an email list of us getting us all amped up to make some boats for next year. Erg times are being discussed. We're going to get our times at like 5Ks down to this level, and you have no idea what you can pull these days. And I did have one of my daughters was rowing, so we had a Concept 2 in the basement. And I mean, you get on the thing, you can do this amount of power in the bike, and you feel like the erg's broken. Like, oh, this couldn't be right. These splits are way too slow.
Oh, this is a great segue.
Yeah, that's something I was thinking about asking, because I failed as a parent to get my kids into endurance sports. And that's probably because I tried it
desperately.
Very little fun for them, right? Like, I mean, it's a hard thing to switch your brain. And I'm saying, let's go running, let's go riding, let's go cross-country skiing. And I definitely took all the fun out of it. Were you in any way successful in getting your kids into endurance sports in any way?
Yeah, one of them got it. One of my daughters got it. Like, we didn't push it at all. I definitely... When I look back, my parents put me into some sports, but they had nothing to do with me playing football, which is why I tried to go play football in college or getting into rowing. So I did find it myself. So there's a lesson there. Oh no, they put us in swimming, so that was an endurance sport growing up. But so one of my kids did it for maybe 3 or 4 years. She actually went to college to row, ended up stopping. She wanted to do some other things. But so we had one successful. That's a
25% success rate. So I think that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So.
I just learned for me, it was all about the fun. And I realized my wonderful wife, when I would take the kids out cross-country skiing, it wasn't that fun. But if my wife came along, and she's a wonderful cross-country skier, we had hot chocolate and, cinnamon buns. And that was the mistake that I made. So for all those parents out there who want their kids to ride or run or ski with them, hot chocolate, food, make it fun.
That's the ticket.
Do not make it intense in any way, and let them find it naturally.
Our one endurance adventure with the family each year is we go up to Kingdom Trails, rent some mountain bikes for the boys, and me and my wife have our own mountain bikes, and we just go up there for 4 or 5 days and hit the trails, and they seem to have fun with it.
Yeah.
And then they don't touch their bike.
When you're not on the North Shore, any other areas of New England specifically that you love to visit for endurance activities?
Yeah. I don't get out that much. The White Mountains up in New Hampshire, love. When I do get up to ride there, it's just beautiful. It's amazing how close it is, how you can, ride, just so beautiful. So many climbs, and I don't get out enough. But so I don't really visit. My wife's family's up in northern Maine. It's actually amazing up there as well. But so not. But yeah, so no real. Way back, I would do events or bike races everywhere, but not much anymore. Besides, just beautiful. It's the rides that we just plan group rides. Go up with a bunch of friends, or or one of the local clubs, like your Monsters Club, or that sort of thing. I think it's the last time I went up there.
What do you mentioned a few different clubs here, Monsters, and you obviously have some folks at Fit Werx. What do you love about the community in New England?
Yeah, it's just something about it. It's like it's really not, there's all these different clubs that all blend together. Like if we go to one of the Concord rides, if it's the Monsters or Team Psycho or 545 Velo or Minuteman Road Club, our Fit Werx guys, we've developed these fun, in the summer, we'll all go do like a big bullet train ride together. And then we get all you guys to come up on the North Shore and do our ride, our pain train ride. And
can you explain what the bullet train ride is?
It's just,
folks?
So Saturday, it's like, gosh, it must be at 5:30 a.m. and somebody always has to remind me on a Tuesday morning. But it's consistent and starts in Concord Center. And literally, if you're not warmed up, so picture circling around Concord Center. Sometimes in the summer, it's in the dark. And then this train of riders comes around the corner that started 5 minutes ago, and you hop on, do one lap, and some days you're literally off at 30 miles an hour and then just trying to hang on. And then it gets a little bit hilly towards the end, and it's like a bike race. They might be 20 or 30 guys, and it gets broken up into little groups. Just a lot of fun. Each week's a little bit different. And so I'm jealous that you all have a ride of that caliber there all the time, all summer. And that's just one of them. I know there are tons of group rides going on where we have beautiful riding up on the North Shore, but I feel there's definitely fewer cyclists. There's fewer organized group rides going on. But it's still just amazing cyclists riding everywhere I go.
Well, I think we've covered a lot, Dean, and it's been great to have you. You're our first guest, and we're really thankful. And we're trying to think, okay, what are we going to finish every guest question with, right? And I made a bold statement during the first episode, which is something I firmly believe in. So I'm gonna ask you the question that we hope maybe becomes the question that we ask our guests, and that is why do you believe New England is the best region of the United States for endurance sports? And it's a statement, right? Like I'm not asking the question, is it? I'm asking you why you believe it is.
Yeah, I believe it is. It's just the whole year-round winter sports, summer sports. It's amazing the number of elite and professional cyclists and triathletes and runners that come out of New England. We just seem to have the right mix of all the right environment, whether it's mountains or beautiful summer weather, shorelines for cycling and everything. Like I remember growing up doing triathlon, not growing up, doing triathlons 20 years ago. Gosh, every weekend it seemed like you could run into several elite triathletes and we just feed off each other year round, it seems. Even the groups I ride with, the guys that are really good on the mountain bike, they still ride with us in the summer as we beat up on them on the road bike, and then they beat up on me on the mountain bike. And it's just a cycle that goes year round. There's something for everybody, all 4 seasons. So I don't know if that answered that question well, but
I think it did. I think it did, and it's all a personal perspective. For some, it may be the diversity of endurance sports. For you, it's the difference of 4-season cycling and the camaraderie that this environment creates. But that's why we started this podcast, right? To really celebrate the endurance community of New England, and everybody's got their own perspective on it. So
you're a big part of it, man.
You're definitely a big part of it.
Thank you.
So yeah. So Dean, again, thank you for being our first guest here on the New England Endurance Podcast. We would like to present you with a box of cookies. Because
thank you.
That is why we ride. So those cookies are presented by Lark Fine Foods, which is a 100% woman-owned specialty food company in Essex, Massachusetts, not far. I think we all know the illustrious owners of Lark Fine Foods, but they are powering many of my rides, and hopefully those cookies and delectables will power some of your rides in the future as well.
If they make it until my ride.
Yeah, if they make it home.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and of course, we'd like to thank some of our other sponsors. Keep It Tight, Team Keep It Tight, a mass-based cycling team that runs the Kit for Kids Bike Day event in Boston. And also, you are presented with a copy of The Everyday Athlete, a book about balancing work, family, and fitness.
Sounds like you got that locked in now.
Yes. Oh, we'll see. There's always improvement. Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for listening to the New England Endurance Podcast, showcasing the vibrant endurance community of New England. And for those who want to learn more about FitWerx and our sponsors and some of the races and events we talked about, we'll tag you in the Instagram page at New England Endurance. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on the Insta. And until next time, keep pushing your limits and explore the beautiful terrain of New England. Thank you.